Hi there, I'm Pastor Freddie Davison, host of the Crankin Pastor broadcast. Today I'm announcing the very first new annual feast day on the Crankin Pastor broadcast liturgical calendar. The day's name, of course, builds on thousands of years of church tradition, and particularly on the last 30 or 40 years. And that new day is today. Well, through some technical difficulty, today's day is almost over, but it is still today nonetheless. You've heard of a day in the church called Maundy Thursday, not Monday Thursday, but Maundy Thursday, and it's from a Latin word mandatum, which means command, where Jesus' command is to love one another. Well, today's Monday-sounding word is not Maundy, it's a little bit different. It actually is Monday. That is Monday, Monday. And it has nothing to do with the 1966 song performed by the Mamas and the Papas, written by Michelle Phillips. The title comes not from outside, but it comes from inside the church, though clearly what causes the day comes also from outside and inside the church, but that whole thing is for another time, of course. But this year and every year thereafter, on the Monday that precedes the Palm Sunday, we'll begin in the Crankin Pastor broadcast our observation of what I'm going to call Palm Sunday's Little Lent, or Monday, Monday. And the reading appointed for Monday, Monday, well, that comes up in just a moment. And unlike perhaps some of my tongue-in-cheek attempts to teach, it's no joke at all. Now, I have little doubt that if our broadcast title hasn't offended somebody already, something I say from this chair eventually will. And it's not because I'm trying to be offensive at all. Heck, I can offend somebody just by showing up. But with respect to this broadcast, it's because if I proclaim the same gospel gold that Jesus actually spoke, I should reasonably expect the same mixed reaction and reception that he received. Now, lest anyone should be confused about where this gospel leads, the road Jesus walks reaches its climax in his horrific suffering and death on a day that the church has long called Good Friday. Paradox on that, for to be sure. But let me be perfectly clear. I am not claiming to be Jesus. I'm not Jesus. I don't look like Jesus. I don't act like Jesus. Even on my best day of trying, I don't even come close. And so it shouldn't surprise anyone that I poke fun regularly at the religious trappings that we all wrap ourselves in. The good ones, the bad ones, and yes, the downright silly ones. And so sometimes my humor does land, and people chuckle, and me too. But sometimes my humor limps along badly. But I use it because there are people who will never darken the door of a church for all sorts of reasons, including that the fear the roof might fall in on them keeps them away, as well as the judgment that comes from people who think they're better than somebody else, both inside the church and, yes, even people outside the church who think they're better than people who are inside the church. And so none of this is just an inside or outside the church problem. Far from it. Inside the church, things have changed just like outside the church. I like to say that I'm not that old. And when I do, most people respond with the funny look. Really? Are you so sure about that, Freddie? Did you not grow up with a rotary phone? Of course, they already know, like any good lawyer, the answer before the question's asked. And of course, I always answer, yes, I did. And so I'm forced to answer, I am old, and yes, things do change. But I'm still the prime of my life, no doubt about it. But one of those changes I'm going to talk about is exactly why I'm broadcasting tonight, why I'm introducing this new Crankin Pastor Little Lent liturgical feast. It's not new at all, really. I just came up with the catchy name. You see, when I grew up, this coming Sunday was always the kickoff to what was always called Holy Week. Even in my short 30 years of boot camp, we observed Holy Week in churches that I've served. The day coming up this Sunday was called Palm Sunday. And the gospel of the day featured crowds, especially little ones, strewing palm branches all along the road as the King of Israel rode into his city, the holy city, the city of David. And growing up came Holy Monday, 5:30 a.m. in the little village I grew up in. Bells were ringing and people walked to church, and we heard more of his journey toward the cross that should have been ours. But because of the Father's love for us and the Son's love for the Father and for us, he embraced the cross, from being judged before Pilate to being beaten nearly to death, and then to his crucifixion with Simon's help all along the way. And that story unfolded for us all, day by day by day. The entire week, day by day, was set apart, holy. And that's why it was called Holy Week. But over time, even in the most sincere of churches, amongst the most sincere Christians and pastors, holiness gave way to busyness and business. And Palm Sunday, in many places, became Passion Sunday. And Holy Week services seemed to fade away. Even Holy Thursday and Maundy Thursday disappeared in many places. Sometimes, and some places, even Good Friday services too. And because people weren't hearing the story anymore, the church tried to cram the entire week into Sunday readings, so they didn't show up on Easter Sunday not having heard anything about the cross. So if you think one of my sermons runs long at 18 minutes on any given day, imagine listening to an 18-minute sermon after having just heard a 25-minute long reading from a gospel. And so that's why tonight's broadcast comes to you. Yes, on Monday, or in this case, maybe you won't see it till Tuesday morning. The point is you'll be able to listen to it several times before Palm Sunday morning. So you can let it filter in between the noise that comes in between your ears and to my ears, and to allow it to settle down into your soul. Let it percolate through all the mess that gets in there from day to day. I know I have to listen and read and hear, say the words out loud even in my own time, so I can hear the words and allow it to sink in. And so the point of the broadcast is so that you'll have heard the word read today and tomorrow, maybe the next day, and Lord willing, even the next, read with the emphasis that the Lord God has laid upon my heart through 69 years of life and the last 30 plus years in what I like to call boot camp. And it's my heartfelt desire, and it's why I do this, that you'll find him the same way I have, a very present help in every time of trouble. So my dear friend, my listener, join me in taking heed how you hear. And just as the heavens once commanded, "This is my beloved Son, hear him." These are Matthew's words, his words. When Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days, the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified." Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas. And they took counsel together in order to arrest Jesus in secret and to kill him. But they said, "Not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people." Now when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the Leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and she poured it upon his head as he reclined at table. And when his disciples saw it, they were inwardly indignant, saying, "Why this waste? This could have been sold for a large sum of money and given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said unto them, "Why do you trouble this woman? For she's done a good work upon me. The poor you have with you always, but me ye have not always. In pouring this ointment on my body, she's anointed me for burial. Verily I say unto you, wherever this gospel is preached in all the world, what she has done will be told in memoriam of her. And then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priest and said, What will you give me if I deliver him over unto you? And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. And from that very moment, he sought an opportunity to betray him. Now on the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover? And he said, Go into the city to a certain man and say unto him, The Master says, My time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When he was at evening, he reclined at table with the 12, and as they were eating, he said, Verily I say unto you, one of you will betray me. And they were very sorrowful, and began to say to him one after another, Lord, is it I? And he answered, He who dips his hand with me in the dish will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it's written of him. But woe unto that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man had he not been born. And Judas, who would betray him, answered, Is it I, Rabbi? And he said unto him, You've said. Now as they were eating, Jesus took bread, and after blessing, he brake it and gave it to his disciples, saying, Take, eat. This is my body. And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, Drink ye all of it. This is my blood of the New Testament, shed for many for the remission of sins. And I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine, until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out unto the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said unto them, You will all fall away because of me this night, for it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee. Peter answered and said unto him, Though they all men shall be offended because of you, yet will I never be offended. Jesus said unto him, Verily I say unto you that this night before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. Peter said unto him, Even if I must die with you, I will not deny you. And all the disciples said the same. Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, Sit here while I go yonder and pray. And he took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then he said to them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here and watch with me. And going a little farther, he fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. He came to the disciples and found them asleep, and he said unto Peter, What, could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Again, for the 2nd time, he went away and prayed, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, lest I drink it, thy will be done. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them, and went again, and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same words. Then he came unto the disciples, and said unto them, Sleep on now, and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. Behold, he is at hand that doth betray me. And while he yet spake, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great crowd with swords and staves from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I kiss, that same is he. Hold him fast. And he came up to Jesus at once and said, Hail, Master! And he kissed him. And Jesus said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? Then they came up and laid hands on Jesus and seized him. And behold, one of those who were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest and smote off his ear. Then Jesus said unto him, Put up thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled that thus it must be? And in that same hour Jesus said unto the crowds, Are ye come out as against a thief with swords and staves for to take me? I sat daily with you teaching in the temples, and ye laid no hold on me. But all this has taken place that the scriptures of the prophets might be fulfilled. Then all the disciples forsook him and fled. And then those who had seized Jesus led him to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had gathered. And Peter was following him afar off, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards to see the end. Now the chief priests and the elders and all the councils sought false witness against Jesus in order that they might put him to death. And yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. At the last, 2 false witnesses came and said, This man said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to rebuild it in 3 days. And the high priest stood up and said, Answerest thou nothing? What is it which these testify against thee? But Jesus remained silent, and the high priest said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus said unto him, Thou hast said. Nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. And then the high priest tore his robes and said, He hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witnesses? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? And they all answered, He is guilty of death. Then did they spit in his face and struck him. Others smacked him in the face with their hands, saying, Prophesy to us, thou Christ, who is he that smote you? Now Peter outside the palace in the courtyard, and a servant girl came unto him, saying, You also were with Jesus the Galilean? But he denied before them all, saying, I know not what thou sayest. When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to those standing there, This fellow was also with Jesus of Nazareth. And again he denied it with an oath, I do not know the man. And after a little while came unto him they that stood by, and said unto Peter, Surely thou also art one of them, for thy speech betrayeth thee. Then began he to curse and to swear, saying, I know not the man. And immediately the cock crew. And Peter remembered the word of Jesus, which said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And he went out and wept bitterly. And when morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus for to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate the governor. Then when Judas, his betrayer, saw that Jesus was condemned, he repented himself and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned in that I betrayed the innocent blood. They said, What is that to us? See thou to that. And he cast down the pieces of silver into the temple. He departed and went and hanged himself. And the chief priest took the silver pieces and said, It is not lawful for to put them into the treasury, because it is the price of blood. And they took counsel and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in, wherefore that field was called the field of blood unto this day. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken by the prophet Jeremiah, the prophet, who said, And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was valued, they of whom they of the children of Israel did value, and gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord appointed me. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said, Thou sayest. But when he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? But he answers to not ever a word, insomuch that the governor was greatly amazed. And with the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted. And they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For he knew it was for envy that they had delivered him. For when he was set down at the judgment seat, his wife said unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered many things this day in a dream on account of him. Now the chief priests and elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor said unto him again, Which of the two will ye that I release unto you? And they said, Barabbas. And Pilate said to them, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? They all said unto him, Let him be crucified. And he said, Why? What evil hath he done? And they cried out all the more, Let him be crucified. And so when Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but rather that a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just man. You see to it. And all the people answered, His blood be upon us and upon our children. Then he released for them Barabbas, and having scourged Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole battalion before him. And they stripped him, and put on him a scarlet robe, and twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on his head, and put a reed in his right hand, and kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And they spitted on him, and took a reed and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe, and put his own raiment upon him, and led him away to crucify him. And as they went out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name, and they compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink, mingled with gall. But when he tasted, he would not drink. And when they had crucified him, they parted his garments among them by casting lots, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots. And sitting down, they watched him there, and over his head his accusation was written, This is Jesus, King of the Jews. Then were there 2 thieves crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. And so all the chief priests with the scribes and the elders mocked him, saying, He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we'll believe him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, for he said, I am the Son of God. And the thieves also who were crucified with him reviled him the same way. Now, from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me? And some of the bystanders, upon hearing it, said, This man is calling Elijah. And one of them at once ran and took a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on a reed, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice, and yielded up the spirit. And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom. And the earth shook, and the rocks were split, and the tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming up out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared unto many. And when the centurion and those who were with him, keeping watch over Jesus, saw the earthquake and what had taken place, they were filled with awe and said, Truly, this was the Son of God. There were also many women there, looking on from a distance, who had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering unto him, among whom were Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who also was a disciple of Jesus. He went unto Pilate and asked the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered that it be given unto him. And Joseph took down the body and wrapped it in a clean linen shroud, and laid it in his own new tomb, which had been cut out of the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the entrance of the tomb, and he went away. And Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, sitting over opposite the tomb. The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, Sir, we remember how that impostor said while he was yet alive, After 3 days I will rise. Therefore, order the tomb to be made secure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples go and steal him away, and then tell the people, He is risen from the dead. And then the last fraud will be worse than the first. Pilate said to them, You have a guard of soldiers. Go make it as secure as you can. And so they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone and setting a guard. This is the gospel of our Lord. Praise be to Christ. Amen.